Hotep, Alafia, Kamusta. Welcome to the Mind of Ro page. I am Faju Junde, Oba Jaguna, Oguna Salamio. So today I'm going to make a video on what does it really mean to be emotionally intelligent. So the last video I made was how to know someone is playing with your emotions. I did make a video on emotional manipulation. So if you like that kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Ro. I also have a TikTok and an Instagram and a Twitter at Mind of Ro and a Facebook business page at The Mind of Ro. And I also do readings, particularly IFA readings and aura reading with it as well. I'm good at reading auras. So if you would like a reading from me, go ahead and shoot me a comment or shoot me a message and set an appointment up with me. I could either do them over video chat or I could just type it up and send it to you. It's really up to you. So let's move on. What is emotional intelligence? So according to Google, it is the ability to perceive, use, understand, manage, and handle our emotions. So before I go into the details of what emotional intelligence really is, I really want to talk about some things that a lot of people aren't talking about online. I want to talk about what emotional intelligence is not at first and then go into what it really is. So let's use our common sense. We obviously know that not being emotionally intelligent basically means we're flying off the handle and acting abusive and crazy. Okay, we know that. So I'm not going to talk about the most common sense signs if someone's not emotionally intelligent. I want to talk about the illusions of people who think they're practicing emotional intelligence and they're really not. So let's talk about that. So number one, what is not emotional intelligence? Number one is ignoring or denying your feelings. So an example of that is expecting yourself to never feel sad or to never feel angry or to never ever be upset. This is not rational. We are human beings and we have feelings for a reason. Therefore, if we're feeling sad, there's a reason why we're feeling sad. If we're feeling anger, it's because there's something that we need to recognize. If we're feeling fear, it means there's something that we are being warned about. If we're feeling anxious, it's another warning. If we're depressed, it means we're thinking about the past and we need to heal it. It doesn't mean to ignore it. It doesn't mean to shame yourself every time you feel, because that's not emotional intelligence. I've noticed there has been kind of some weird fad going on with New Age spiritualism that we're not supposed to feel anything. So that's a number one red flag that you're not practicing emotional intelligence. If you have convinced yourself or allowed something or someone else to convince you that you should feel guilty for feeling, we should never feel guilty for feeling. Our feelings is our intuition. It is our third eye. It is spirit speaking to us. It is our connection to the great divine web and the divine answers, because all answers are in the ethers. Therefore, if you are ignoring your feelings all the time, then you are ignoring the voice of God speaking to you, okay? So ignoring your feelings and expecting yourself to never feel anything is not realistic, and it means you're denying your connection to source. So number two, what is not emotional intelligence? Being emotionally unavailable, aka the inability to catch feelings. I'm sure some of you have met some of those players who like to act like, oh, well, I don't catch feelings. That's just for humans, or only humans catch feelings. This is toxic, okay? If you're emotionally unavailable, it means you're not practicing emotional intelligence, because it basically means you have an issue with not being able to bond with another being, which means you are not practicing sympathy. So therefore, if you are unavailable to bond with anybody and you have an issue with catching feelings, it means you are not being one with your feelings, which means you are not practicing emotional intelligence. So number three, another sign that you're not practicing emotional intelligence, that some people might lie to themselves and say that is emotional intelligence, which is toxic positivity. Yes, toxic positivity is not being emotionally intelligent. An example of that is pretending that something is good when it's not good. So we have a lot of problems going on in the world right now, and a lot of the problems continue because the people who are causing the problems bank on you to pretend it's not happening. So as long as you just ignore it and pretend it's not happening, does it mean that you're practicing emotional intelligence? Absolutely not, because that's going to go to my next step is do not confuse emotional intelligence with being in denial. Do not confuse emotional intelligence with being emotionally numb. And do not confuse emotional intelligence with being passive or turning the other cheek, which means allowing someone to take advantage of you because you just want to turn the other cheek or ignore it. And I'm not only talking about in romantic relationships or in jobs or with frenemies or toxic family members. I also mean the government, okay? Emotional intelligence does not consist of you just allowing people to walk all over you and you ignoring it. So do not confuse emotional intelligence also with behaving transhuman. If you don't know what transhuman is, it basically means robotic. It means half human, half robot, which is exactly what is being pushed onto people's reality today. You can't expect yourself to be a robot. It's unrealistic. We are humans here. We are spirits having a human experience, not a robot experience. Yes, God lives within us, but we are still human and we are still here in the now today, which means as above, so below, as within, so without, as my soul to the universe. And you are not able to reach as high as you are able to reach below. What I mean is, don't expect yourself to ascend out of here if you are not rooted in your human experience. So emotional intelligence does not consist of you behaving like a robot and not experiencing and being one with the human experience, as in, well, I'm just going to have my head up in the clouds and be all floaty and meditate and just ignore everything that's happening. I'm going to send out of here. According to a lot of traditions, the reason why we work with our ancestors and we pay homage to our ancestors and we pay homage to ourself, which is our ori, our own spirit, is to ground ourselves in this reality. Because if you can't handle being a human and understand how to really fully experience that human life, then stop expecting yourself to be a god, okay? Because it's a lot harder to be a god, all right? So let's move on. What does it mean to really be emotionally intelligent? Since now I just let you know what it really doesn't mean to be emotionally intelligent. What does it really mean? Number one is to listen to understand and instead of listening to respond. Basically what this means is, this is something that I've shared with multiple people, is when you keep trying to force others to understand you constantly, it means that you are not listening to understand the other person. And it actually is a red flag that you have not taken the time to really understand yourself. Because a lot of times when we understand ourselves, then it helps us be able to understand other people. As in, we could pinpoint our own pain, we could pinpoint our own reactions, and we could pinpoint when we are disturbed or when we're comfortable, when we're happy, when we're angry, when we're happy, sad, whatever it is, which goes back to not ignoring our feelings. So, does this mean that you don't need any respect to be understood? Absolutely not. We all deserve our respect from other people just as much as we should respect other people. But one of the number one things that is emotional intelligence is to learn to listen to other people when they're speaking to you and not always be trying to be understood, because we're going through a phase right now in humanity where everyone's offended. I'm so offended by everything what everybody says, because people aren't listening to what's really happening, which is exactly why we keep being taken advantage of by who we like to call the elite, because we're not listening. A lot of the truth is being exposed to us. If you're somebody who has been around a liar, this is why you need to listen, is because a lot of people who lie tend to sneakily tell you the truth, and you need to pay attention. And if you're always worried about trying to be understood the whole time and not focused on understanding others behind you, it means you're going to be a lot easier to be manipulated. And the reason why I say that is because the other person just has to say, yeah, I understand you. And then all of a sudden you feel understood. So you just shut up because you're not really listening and paying attention to what's happening around you. So please don't get stuck in that. There is a balance of being understood and understanding. So like I said earlier, it's not a one-way street. It doesn't mean just because you need to stop always being understood and understand others. It goes both ways. You need to understand, take the time to understand yourself and take the time to understand others in equal portions. Number 2 is practicing emotional intelligence consists of problem-solving skills. So I am an Ianifa and I do a lot of readings. If you're watching this, you're not sure what an Ianifa is. An Ianifa is basically a priestess in an African tradition that we call Ifa. I am a diviner. I divine. And what we basically do is we ask the oracle what's going on in this person's life and what does this person need to do to fix these problems in their life. And the oracle will let us know. And I'm just a messenger and I say, hey, this is what the oracle says. And I am just here to tell you what the gods say. This is not my point of view, okay? So that being said, if you're practicing emotional intelligence, then you need to have some solving problem skills. The reason why I'm bringing this up right now is because one thing that I get out of a lot of people when I do readings is a lot of people who don't have problem solving skills tend to just want to be heard and they don't want to be healed. So if you're watching this, I'm going to ask you, do you want to be heard or do you want to be healed? And this is where it comes to that fact of having problem solving skills. Do you want your problems to be solved? Or do you just want someone to understand why you have the problems, okay? I know sometimes it's good to have someone to lean on and cry on their shoulder and say it hurts. And I understand that a lot of the problems in life suck, especially when we lose somebody we love or things just don't go the way we want it to go. Money problems, job problems, whatever. We have a right to feel hurt in those moments. But if we don't have any solving skills, then we're just going to keep repeating the problem over and over and over and over again, which is the definition of insanity. You can't expect anything to change if you keep repeating the same thing or doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. It doesn't work that way. So emotional intelligence comes with being able to solve your problems, making plans, writing things out, figuring out, okay, this doesn't work, therefore I should probably stop doing that. Let me write things out and figure out maybe I should try this. And then actually making the moves to actually do it to solve the problem. A lot of issues that's going on with the world today is a lot of people just want to be heard and nobody wants to heal. Everybody just wants to complain about everything, but no one wants to do anything about it. And that's why we keep repeating the same cycles on this planet over and over and over again. Dating the same person with a different face, going into toxic relationship after toxic relationship, same argument with the same family member over and over and over again because we want to be healed and we want to be heard and we don't want to be healed. So the next one is how to practice emotional intelligence is being open about the way you feel. A lot of people are very shut in. I know I'm a little introverted myself. I don't like to talk to people a whole lot. So I get it. I know how it feels. We have a lot more extroverted people who talk a lot. So what happens when we're not open about our feelings? Well, we have that whole thing where a lot of people say, well, if you don't know why I'm angry at you, then you're wrong. That doesn't solve the problem. So we're going back to the second step is solving problems. We can't expect people to read our minds. If we feel the type of way, then we need to express that. If we don't like our partner doing something, then we can't just expect them to read our minds. I mean, a lot of times, honestly, our partner probably just really doesn't know. And how do you know unless you bring it up to them, okay? And a lot of times, some people could be just naturally really disrespectful, and they're just so comfortable being disrespectful because they're being disrespectful to people who just don't tell them they're being disrespectful. Okay, so we have to be really real about the way we feel. If you really feel nervous and we feel like someone's lying to us, then you need to be open about that. If you're like, hey, I don't trust you because I don't like how shady you act, then say it then. Stop pretending you don't feel this way because that's how truth is exposed to us. We need to be real about the way we feel. If we honestly don't really like a job we're working at, then stop lying to yourself and telling you to settle for less. You're not going to have a better life if you're just settling for less and you're lying to yourself. Because when you're lying to other people, or lying about your feelings, it's just, we're going back to denialism. Emotional intelligence is not denialism. We got to be really open about how we feel in our situations, how we really feel about other people. If you feel like somebody disrespected you when you spoke to them, then tell them you feel disrespected when they spoke to you. Just say it. If you don't say it, it's going to keep happening over and over and over again. One issue I see in a lot of relationships is one person likes to talk about their feelings and the other person does not want to talk about their feelings. And then it causes a big argument because someone's like, yeah, well, I don't want to talk about it. That's not helping anybody. And then we have the one person who ends up being the nagger and nag. And then that person who doesn't want to talk about their feelings says that person's a nag, and it turns into another toxic habit of looping, of repeating the same thing over and over and over again. So we need to be mindful of that, okay? If you have issues, you need to be open about it, especially if you're with somebody in a romantic partnership. If you can't talk to your partner, then who can you speak to? Okay, that's the whole point of why we're with people. That's the whole point of why we have friends, because the value of your life is based on the value of your relationships. And if you're not valuing your relationships with people, that includes yourself, then you really don't have a lot of value in your life. So we got to be open about our feelings, okay? The next one is the ability to move forward, as in not always bringing up the past and reliving the past over and over and over again. Now, does this mean that you should be okay with somebody who keeps doing the same thing to you over and over and over and over again? No, that's not what that means. Basically, what this means is, okay, something happened in the past. Yeah, it really sucks. But we have a bad habit of replaying it in our mind, rewinding it and then playing again, and rewinding it and then playing again. And then we go back to the cycle of I just want to be heard, I just want to be heard, I just want to be heard. Which goes back to what I said earlier. We need to take the accountability to heal and not just be heard. So we need to be mindful of that. Are you replaying an instant, a traumatic moment that happened in your life over and over and over again? Are you rethinking it? Is it controlling you because you're not really being open about the way you really feel about that incident that happened to you in the past? Are you bringing up the past too much and it's like beating a dead horse? Is there a situation you're with somebody and obviously it happened way a long time ago, the person didn't repeat it, or for example, you didn't repeat it and you've changed as a person, but yet you keep bringing it up, or you keep feeling guilty about something over and over and over again. So we need to be mindful of that. Are you able to move forward? Are you able to forgive yourself? Are you able to evaluate yourself and say, hey, this person did something wrong, but clearly this much time went by and they haven't done it again. When do you let it go? When do you forgive yourself? When you accept yourself and say, hey, I made a mistake in the past, but I'm not that person anymore. Therefore, it's time to move on from it. It's time for you to forgive yourself. It's time to move forward, because the reason why a lot of times we end up reliving traumatic moments or inviting those certain demons back into our life with another face, same personality, other face, is because we keep replaying these moments in our past over and over and over again, and we keep bringing it up over and over and over again, and we keep not forgiving ourselves and others over and over and over again. Therefore, we keep inviting those same moments to keep happening to us over and over and over again, okay? So the next one is, number 5, is learning to be flexible and open to others' opinions and ideas. So if you're working in a group of people, or if you're in a relationship, or if you're married, you can't expect everything to always go your way. We have to be fair. We need to understand that everything isn't always going to be our way, and we need to stop being control freaks, because if we're being controlling and expecting everything to go our way, that means we're not practicing emotional intelligence. So one of the major things in emotional intelligence is understand everybody has their own needs, everybody has their own wants, everybody has their own higher purpose and why they're here, their likes, their dislikes, and we need to respect that. And we need to understand and accept people for who they are. And when we are not accepting ourselves for who we are, it gives us the inability to accept others for who they are as well. So we can't expect everything to be our way, and we need to let go of that, because that's the concept of being in resistance to what is. Because if we are resisting everything that's happening around us all the time, then we are in a way trying to resist. We could even be resisting our own purpose, because sometimes the universe and the orishas and the nature will kind of push us, and the gods will try to push us in a certain direction, and we're resisting it because we want everything to have to be this way, everything has to be my way, everything has to be just like this, and if it's not like this, then I'm not gonna be happy. That's not emotional intelligence. We need to be able to be flexible. We need to be able to bend and flow. When the wind blows on the tree, we need to understand we need to bend with the wind and not break with the wind, because if you're too tough like this all the time, your tree is going to break. So we need to be a little more flexible. Does this mean that you have to tell somebody or just agree with everybody? No, it doesn't mean, because emotional intelligence comes with being able to set boundaries. It comes with being able to say no, being able to say, hey, like I said earlier, I don't like that. Being open about your feelings. I don't like that, and I like this. So don't get it twisted with you have to be flexible and give in to somebody who's trying to make you do things that does not serve your highest good, okay? So that's part of the other illusion of emotional intelligence. Sometimes some people lie to themselves and say they're practicing emotional intelligence, when actuality they're just letting other people push them around and tell them how to live their own life, and getting them sucked into toxic habits and toxic ways, toxic thinking, because they're being a little too flexible, okay? So it doesn't mean to be too flexible. We have to find a good balance of what does it really mean to be flexible, and what does it really mean to where we're being a pushover. We have to be mindful about that. The next one is we need to take the initiative to heal and self-reflect. It's not okay for us to come home and beat our wife because we're mad about our taxes. It's not okay to go to the 7-Eleven and then cuss out the person at the register because we had a bad day at work, okay? It's not okay for us to keep blaming our parents all the time and having mommy and daddy issues. Well, my mom treated me like this and my dad treated me like this. If you're an adult and you're watching this, we need to take accountability. I know that a lot of shit happened in the world. Our ancestors are suppressed and all this crap happened. All this crap is happening now. I know. But we need to take the initiative to take the time to heal ourselves. It's nobody else's job but you. Nobody else can heal for you. Nobody else can bring you peace. Nobody else's job is to solve all your problems. If we sit there and say, well, I'll be happy when the world is a better place, you're going to die if you believe that. Well, I'll be happy when everything's my way. Well, I'll be happy when my kids are perfect in my eyes. Well, I'll be happy when my spouse does everything that I want him or her to do. If you keep thinking like this and you're not taking the initiative to heal yourself and to reflect on yourself, you're never going to be happy. This is just wishful thinking. This is not realistic. You can't depend your happiness on everybody else and on the rest of the planet. It's not realistic. It's really not. So we need to take the time to really evaluate our own pain, evaluate our triggers, evaluate our shadow self. If you're not sure what your shadow self is, please look up my guided meditation on the shadow self, where I explain what our shadow self is and how we can be one with that shadow self so it stops sabotaging us. Because our shadow self is that aspect of ourself that likes to cause self-sabotage, which consists of the inability to want to take the time to heal ourselves and to self-reflect and really sit with our emotions and be one with our emotions so we could understand our emotions that's coming from us and only us. Yes, there are a lot of people I like to call crazy makers, which is tied to narcissistic personality disorder. I did make a video on that. It doesn't mean that you have no right to feel out of controllably emotional when you're dealing with a person who I like to call crazy makers. No, but it does consist of asking yourself and reevaluating, why are you with a person who drives you crazy? Does this mean that you're supposed to, oh, well, as long as I'm just really calm and collected all the time around a crazy maker, therefore I'm practicing emotional intelligence? No, you're not, because you're allowing a crazy maker within your life to take advantage of your emotions and to push you to that point. So this was what consists of really some serious self-reflection and asking ourselves, what is making us not practice emotional intelligence? What is making us deny all of this? What is making us not want to be one with our emotions? Why are we scared of our emotions? Why am I scared to feel my own emotions that I create within my mind, within my emotional body, and within my own self? Why am I scared of that? We need to ask ourselves these questions, really evaluate that and ask, why am I scared to heal? There is not one person on this planet who has healed that did not evaluate their emotions. It doesn't exist. There is no such thing as healing without being one with your emotions. Therefore, emotional intelligence does not consist of denying your emotions, because you cannot heal if you're denying it. We need to be one with it. We need to look at it and realize, why are we feeling this way? Why does this feeling keep coming up over and over and over again? This is the accountability we need to take as a society, because we live in a very sick society, and we do because people live in denialism. Emotions can be dark, I know. It's our shadow self. It can be painful sometimes. But if we don't look at it and we don't take the time to really look at that emotion in the eye, it's going to continue to control us over and over again. And it's going to continue to turn society into passive people that are in denial of what's happening in their self and what's happening in the world. Therefore, everything keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. That's the saying of, if you do not know history, then you are doomed to repeat it. This is not only in accordance to your personal life, but in the whole entire world. If we do not know our own history, we are doomed to repeat it. And this consists of being one with our emotions. Where is the pain coming from? My next one, and the last point I have in practicing emotional intelligence is to practice sympathy. Does this mean you're supposed to just let people walk all over you? No, it does not mean that. I am very big on being a powerful person and not being stuck into manipulation. I make a lot of videos on manipulation, so no, I do not mean being so sympathetic to the point where people are taking advantage of you. This basically means that understanding that everybody is coming from pain somehow, some way. And it makes it a lot easier when we understand that pain in other people. And it's easier to understand that pain in other people if we're understanding that pain within ourselves, which means we need to practice sympathy, not only with other people, but with ourselves. Like I was saying earlier, when I was saying about really evaluating yourself of why am I repeating the same thought over and over and over again, even though I know I'm not that person, even though I know that my intentions at the time was not really bad. I just had no other, I felt like I just didn't have another option at that time. This is where sympathy comes in. Are you giving yourself sympathy? Are you forgiving yourself? Are you giving others sympathy? Are you taking the time to understand another person's pain on why someone else is arguing with you, or why somebody else is resisting what you're saying? Why is somebody else not doing what you're telling them to do, for example? Are you practicing sympathy to understand that other person? Are you practicing sympathy to understand yourself? Why are you behaving this way? Why do you feel as though other people have to succumb to your pain? Are you sympathizing with the other person when you lash out on other people? Do you feel as though that everyone deserves to feel you lashing out on them? Are you practicing that sympathy? So all of this is emotional intelligence, and I have a lot of experience with this. I mean, I have not always been enlightened. I've been through periods in my life where I was tore up from the floor up, and I was an emotional wreck. I still have moments where I could feel like I'm an emotional wreck, because there's no such thing as being perfect. Does it mean that we should just keep letting ourselves fly off the handle whenever? No, it doesn't mean that, but it also means to learn to give ourselves a break sometimes, you know? Stop taking us so serious and understand that you're not perfect. Nobody else is perfect, and we need to stop expecting ourselves to be this fake identity of perfection and expecting everybody else to be some kind of fake identity of perfection. We need to give ourselves a break sometimes. Nobody's perfect on this world. I mean, we found out that there was only one man who walked this planet who was perfect, and then we found out that man wasn't even real, okay? So my next video is going to be on a Yemaya guided meditation, because she teaches us emotional intelligence and she teaches us a lot of self-nourishment. So if you really struggle with emotional intelligence and if you really need help with your emotions, whether it's because you've always had an issue or because you're just having a certain block that's happening right now, then please look for my next video on a Yemaya guided meditation to help you get your emotions under control and to help you practice more self-nourishment so you could be more emotionally intelligent. So I hope everyone is having an emotionally intelligent day. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Ro and hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I have more intelligence and wisdom to share with you. Ankh Uchasaneb, Namaste, Odabo, peace.